The final segment of the evening in dealing with the appropriations to the Premier's office. We begin first with CBO 1, Development and Coordination of Government Policy, $1,118,309 for 2018 and $1,180,775 in 2019. Are there any questions? Member for Boddentown West.
Yeah, just 1 second, Mr.
Could I ask you to speak into the mic for
Sorry.
me? Thank you.
No, that's fine. Sorry.
You okay? Okay. If there are no questions, all those in favor of CBO 1, Development and Coordination of Government Policy, for $1,118,309 in 2018 and $1,180,775 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. CBO 2, Cabinet and National Security Council Support and Servicing, $889,596 in 2018 and $867,881 in 2019. Are there any questions? I put the question. All those in favor of CBO 2, Cabinet and National Security Council Support and Servicing, $889,596 in 2018 and $867,881 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. CBO 9, Protocol Services, $461,886 in 2018 and $461,880 in 2019. Are there any questions? Member for Northside.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Who decides the order of precedence and when was it last revised? Is it cabinet or the governor?
Mr. Chairman, it was, to the best of my recollection, it was last revised about 6 years ago. I believe the determination was made by cabinet. I was not in cabinet at the time. 6 or 7 years ago.
Member for East End, you had a question, sir?
And that would be the one that is currently on the website.
I haven't seen one on the website, but I would presume that what is there is the current situation.
Okay. Member for East End.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, can I ask who this service is provided to, and at the airport, that is for the people of this country?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask the member which service he's referring to specifically?
Protocol services.
You need further clarity, Mr. Premier?
Yes, Mr.
Okay. Can you elucidate for us in terms of what you when you discuss what specific protocol services are you referring to?
Number of official visits, local and overseas, conferences and meetings, given assistance and are organized. And I'm talking about at the airport now.
CapSec, may I ask you to state your name and position for the record, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is Samuel Rose. I'm the Cabinet Secretary. and Chief Officer for the portfolio of the Cabinet Office. Through you, Mr. Chair, from time to time, there will be a number of events that the Cayman Islands government may be hosting. I can think of, for example, the upcoming Commonwealth Parliamentary Association meeting, which will be here. And on those occasions, we'll be required to provide assistance and extend courtesies to visiting dignitaries who are coming to Cayman for the conference.
Can you explain the local ones now?
Well, that would include the airport courtesies extended to VIPs and on occasions we have individuals coming in from the judiciary or what have you. So we have visiting judges coming in.
Oh, so it's only for coming in, not for going out.
We do provide for both directions, coming in and coming out, Mr. Chair, through you.
Mr. Chairman, you want me to ask a question short, and I still not getting what?
Please ask the question.
I am asking Cayman, when people are using the airport, people, premier, speaker, who is it extended to? The protocol where they escort them.
The service is available to people who are on the order of precedence. So it starts off obviously with the governor, the premier, the speaker, ministers and members of cabinet, as well as MLAs. It's available to MLAs as well, the Chief Justice and other, I guess someone is acting as a Chief Justice, or we have a visiting justice from overseas.
And that is for official travel.
We are happy to assist not only with official travel, but if someone is coming in or out, we try to ensure that, for instance, if our premier or governor is traveling, we try to ensure that they're assisted through the airport.
No, I don't know if I'm saying this right. Only when there's an official travel schedule, are you saying it's only when official travel is scheduled that those people are assisted through the airport?
They're always, well, Mr. Chair, through you, we always try to assist if we're called upon and asked to assist. So obviously someone has to contact the protocol office, and they always endeavor to be of help.
Mr. Chairman, let me see if I can keep us from going round and round the mulberry bush to the best I'm aware. The protocol services with respect to escorting and assisting members of the Legislative Assembly is available to all members of the Legislative Assembly. There are newly imposed security regulations which are directed not by Cayman, but by the UK and the various agencies, which we are still getting used to, which will limit the level of privileges which are available to those who use the airport first because of these new security considerations. As soon as that is sorted out, we'll make members aware of that and what those new rules are. But generally speaking, both going and coming, whether you're on private business or public business, if you're a member of the Legislative Assembly and you request the services if you are not on official travel, because the protocol office will not know automatically that you are traveling, the services are available. That's what the protocol office is for.
Member for Bodden Town West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for the record, and I mean, I just want members to know that, I mean, since being elected, I've basically checked in, and it is a service that was offered to me, but I just chose to mingle with the voters as opposed to being locked away. But it is something I'm aware of, so I just want to say thanks in that regard to the cabinet secretary.
Thank you, sir. There are no further questions. All those in favor of CBO 9 Protocol Services, $461,886 in 2018 and $461,880 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. CBO 11, Freedom of Information and Data Protection Coordination, $201,910 in 2018 and $201,910 in 2019. Are there any questions? There are no questions. All those in favor of CBO 11, Freedom of Information and Data Protection Coordination, $201,910 in 2018 and $201,910 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. CBO 17, Information Services Provided to Other Government Agencies, $1,182,431 in 2018 and $1,212,145 in 2019. Are there any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Member for Northside.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of questions on the CIG TV. When will that become available to everybody, not only subscribers of West Star, or what's it now called, Logic? Around 17. But that's where the CIG TV is. No, 17. Yep. Because as I understand it right now, it's only available if you're a subscriber to, I'm not sure whether it's called Logic now instead of West Star, right? Logic. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, through you, I'm happy to report this evening that CIG TV is now actually available live on YouTube. So we are actually streaming live constantly. We've had a number of challenges over the past couple of years in being able to get the over-the-air broadcast. It's no longer a supported. There's quite a bit of infrastructure required, and the private sector providers are not necessarily utilizing that as often. So we have been working and getting it over in Cayman Brac, as the Honorable Deputy Premier can attest. It's been quite a challenge. And so we were able to find an interim measure which will make it more accessible to more people in the community on a regular basis, in fact, around the world, by going the streaming route. So it has a live stream, which allows people to see it 24 hours a day. So right now it's available by a live stream. It's currently carried by Logic and C3, and we're currently in negotiations with Flow to be able to carry it on their channel as well. But it is something that we're continuing to work on. We would like an over-the-air solution that would obviously be ideal, so to make it accessible to everyone, but it's not technology that we ourselves as government would be able to have and broadcast.
But isn't it a requirement of the, so I guess the ICTA license now that all providers carry local content? Isn't that part of their license requirement?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe it is a part of their license requirement. Hence, those who have their cable packages are trying to include it. So it's in high demand. Everyone wants to have it. So C3 and Flow, they don't have over-the-air capacity. You have to obviously be a subscriber. So
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing that everybody complains to me about is that there is no schedule for it, and you may happen to buck up in something you want to watch, but the public seems to be, they would appreciate whether it's a printed schedule that's published and followed, or whether it's something that comes over the TV.
Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, whether we can have a schedule of what's coming up on the channel.
thank you, Mr. Chair. We do realize that the scheduling has been a sore spot for our customers, and we do aim to improve the quality of programming that we do provide. As you know, the material for CIGTV is locally produced based on many live public sector events. So sometimes the times are quite erratic. Sometimes we have a 31-minute show or 53 minutes. It's not your nicely packaged, produced show, which is completed by a certain amount of time. It's not tied to a single hour. So, for instance, we do rebroadcasts of conferences and keynote speakers at conferences, graduations, those types of events, which again aren't very neatly packaged. So it's something that I have been working with GIS and to try and improve, because I do realize that if we want to have a proper channel and have something that people can view as more reliable, we should be able to project what is going to be shown each day, etc. But again, another example is when we rebroadcast the broadcasts from the Legislative Assembly. So again, there's no set tight time around those things. But it's something that we will continue to work towards. Hopefully I can report this time next year on a better outcome, even before that. Thank you.
I guess my final question would be, is there any consideration being given to use it to carry educational content on part of the education department?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is something, again, that we would like to improve and increase our educational and cultural offerings. There's a tremendous opportunity that we discussed as well, I believe, last year around getting content from some of our local content producers. We have many young Caymanian entrepreneurs who are in the media realm as well. And so we have from time to time been speaking with them about packages that are based around education, culture, various things. And I think we could even look regionally for some of those educational programs, etc. And that would help if we're looking to create a schedule to have educational shows in the morning time. So it's something that we would like to work towards.
I would suggest that educational programs be not in the morning when the children are in school, but when they come home from the evening, instead of watching Walt Disney, they can watch canned maths programs or something.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, sir.
Just given that my background is in media, I just like to give some information to reality of what we're asking for, because I understand the difficulty that which the CIGTV faces in respect to production of content. The production, in order to produce content, is a very time-consuming and very costly process. And unless we're prepared to increase the budget tremendously, I think that we got to be mindful of what we're asking for. I also would like to highlight the ICTA process in respect to the requirements of local content. The law does not specify that CIGTV has to be considered as that local content. So a provider like Flow could decide to say, one of those entrepreneurs that we highlighted earlier can use their content as opposed to CIGTV. So Flow doesn't have to necessarily broadcast CIGTV. So I understand the difficulty that the department is in order to negotiate that. But from the perspective of wanting more content, it will cost more money because production is a very costly matter. And that was the whole dilemma throughout the negotiations of the three providers now of who's going to take up that cost. It's a service that everybody needs, but they're in the business of making money, and they're not going to be there taking on that production cost just so to meet a mandate where they can just use some average amateur video to make the requirements. So I don't know if that helps in respect to the perspective of ICTA and media content.
Member for East End?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know where that came from. My involvement in the deregulation said that and the licensing of ICT providers was that all TV stations had to provide local content. Now, if they merge together and do it as one and broadcast it on all of their network, then that's fine. But they must. Mr. Chairman, I was going to talk about the CIGTV as well, in that this scheduling has been around. This has been asked for and promised for at least 4 years. Every finance committee we come down here, we talk about getting a schedule on the TV. I don't know what's so difficult about it. Granted, I'm not into that business, but and the same thing comes up each time, that it's about the length of the programs. But it was always agreed that there is such a thing as fillers, to fill back into the next time that you're going to start a different program. It's extremely difficult for people to do it. And the other problem that we're having, Mr. Chairman, is that the local station does not have it. You have to subscribe. And there are people in this country that cannot afford to subscribe, but needs to be educated about their country. And if the government is providing a service in that direction, then we need to get it extended to those people. People, not only those who can pay for the service, requires it, needs it, more importantly, wants it. And that is the problem we're having. I think the time has come for us to make that a local station. The educational thing, and these are questions I'm asking you to respond to. The educational thing, we talk about content of the educational stuff. We have a couple hundred professors in this country, doctors, and we talked along the lines a long time now of having a series of things like adult literacy, that they stand up in front of that TV and the next evening everybody knows it comes on at 7. Adult literacy. We have talked about this and nothing has happened. And each time we are promised that by next year it will happen. And nothing happens. We're all going to be old adults and die off and don't get a glimpse into it when the government can provide it with this station.
You respond or you don't?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I believe I attempted to explain some of the challenges with the programming. So again, I will only offer that in producing television, you have to be quite precise. And so we are doing a good job of expanding the programs that we actually rebroadcast. So we are now including the more content from Radio Cayman. We are trying to cover as much ground in terms of GIS is working to cover as much ground in terms of covering very important conferences, which again We are bringing in fantastic speakers from all over the world. And as you know, some of these conferences have quite a cost for people to attend. So we're giving people access to hearing world-class speakers on a myriad of subjects. The healthcare conference, for example, I think we should have some broadcasts from that, rebroadcast from that. But again, I do agree, yes, we have fillers. I think the leader of opposition was speaking about ensuring that we have ample fillers. But the production team is very small. And so the same people who are filming are the same people who have to turn around and edit. And they have to then do the timing, etc. And there are other larger media houses and teams that have larger groups of people doing this. So it is not where we want it to be, but we are going to try to continue to increase the amount of content that we have provided to the public. And I will work with my team to ensure then that we don't have to sit here again next year and talk about the possibility of having scheduled program. I think there are things that we can do, and I will work with the team to get that.
There are no other questions. All those in favor of CBO 17, information services provided to other government agencies, $1,182,431 in 2018 and $1,212,145 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. CBO 20, advice and assistance to the Premier and administration of the Premier's office, $698,955 in 2018, $698,955 in 2019. Are there any questions? There are no questions. All those in favor of CBO 20, advice and assistance to the Premier and administration of the Premier's office, $698,955 in 2018 and $698,955 in 2019, standing part of the schedule of the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. CBO 21, broadcasting of public information and on-air programs, $1,287,809 in 2018 and $1,287,809 in 2019. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair? My only question is, what's the difference between CBO 17 and CBO 21? I thought they fell under the same department. Maybe I can get an understanding of the difference, 'cause I thought they were both GIS.
But you can answer the question.
Mr. Chair, through you, sir, CBO 21 covers the outputs related to Radio Cayman.
Thank you.
Member for Northside?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, shouldn't this board also have an offset for revenue from commercials? But if you look at the RY3 here, it has 853,000. But when you look at note 17 to the accounts, advertising revenues only 322,000. Can you tell me where the rest is? See at the bottom of page 45 in the budget statements, it says the total cost of supplying this outfit over the 2 years is $1,070,387. However, revenue of $853,634 from other third parties reduces the cost of cabinet to the figure there, 216,751. But that's only 108,000. You can make a note of it and correct it if you don't have the answer.
Through you, Mr. Chair, my CFO noted that a similar note should have also been in the ABS because that revenue is over in the next one as well.
And you might need to adjust note 17 too.
Member for Savannah, you had a question, sir?
Comment on the question, maybe. After listening to the cabinet secretary on the television, I feel like poor old Graham Thompson used to talk about when he would go to collect his bills and the people would tell him the predicament that they were in. When he left there, he was sitting down crying with them. And I say that, I will say that in regards to Radio Cayman. I'm not being critical of from last year. I said I wasn't going to bring it up anymore. Listen to the news, maybe 13 to 19 seconds. Then they say they're going to regional, then they're going to BBC. Often I hear news from Friday. You turn the radio on for Monday, the same thing playing over. Can I implore, and I know once again it's going to cost money, if they could please do something more on all the things happening in this beautiful island. Thank you.
Premier?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I could encourage the member from Savannah to just listen to on the record, and you'll hear about all the bad things that are happening in Cayman. For the record, or whatever the hell it's called.
You mean you're beating up your riding partner like that? Well, all you need to do come up here and listen up, man. You can hear much worse things. You only flea bite you the hardest.
Okay.
No, but
All those
sorry.
in favor?
No. Hold on, Mr. Chairman. Sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead, member for Town West.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I noticed the breakdown for CBO 21 also includes RCY2. But I noticed the cost has jumped up roughly from 421,000 annually to roughly 714,000. So I'm just trying to figure out what's the increase when, in fact, the quantitative measures have pretty much remained flat. So I'm just trying to figure out what's the reason for the increase. In the interest of time, Mr. Chairman, this is something that can be provided later. I mean, I'm just for my own, so I don't want to hold up the meeting for it. So if someone can just provide it later on, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm happy to take it that way. And I'll put the vote unless there are any other questions from any other members. Okay. All those in favor of CBO 21, broadcasting of public information and on-air programs for $1,287,809 in 2018 and $1,287,809 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. CBO 22, services provided by the London office, $1,132,736 in 2018, $1,132,735 in 2019. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, all those in favor? Oops. Member for Northside.
I noticed this includes UK 016, and that talks about promotion of the Cayman Islands coat of arms and constitution. for $133,376. But from the information on page 51, it says organization and procurement of services and suppliers to hold events in the UK in celebration of the 60th anniversary Cayman Islands Coat of Arms and First Constitution. What do we expect to achieve by promoting our coat of arms and in the UK?
Mr. Chairman, it is not so much about promoting our coat of arms and our constitution in the UK, but we believe an important opportunity for us to continue our efforts to sell Cayman and what Cayman is, and the fact that Cayman is a part of Britain, particularly as they are now promoting this global Britain. As we are seeing in the report on BBC on this Paradise Papers fiasco that is going on, the general view of people in the UK is that these territories are some foreign countries, and therefore, as an example, the fact that the Queen's, it's the Duchy of the Queen's private estate, the people who manage the Queen's private estate, have chosen the Cayman Fund as one of the vehicles by which to invest the royal money. That is somehow a terrible thing to do. And that is part and parcel of this overall view that Cayman is a complete, separate, and distinct place. So over the course of the last few years, but particularly since Mr. Eric Bush has been there, we have been pushing very hard to build better relationships with key policymakers in the UK and to try to help to influence the British perception about the Cayman Islands. So the money that is in there is just part of the overall program of broadening the knowledge and understanding of Cayman's connection with the United Kingdom and its shared history. That is a small component of the overall program, obviously, which I announced when I spoke and I delivered the policy statement on behalf of the government of our celebration in Cayman of the 60th anniversary of both the coat of arms next year and the first constitution in 2019.
But therein lies my concern in that one of the things we found in our visiting the schools was a lack of knowledge by the children of civics. So my concern is that we're spending equal amounts or much more here in Cayman in our primary schools and high schools to promote these two events. Because I agree with you, they are significant, but I was just concerned that we're only doing it over there and not doing enough locally.
No, no. The thing is, one of the next things that we need to do is to appoint a committee to get behind this program. A similar thing, but on a smaller scale, as you did with Quincentennial. Same sort of idea. And I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. We have a model of how that was incredibly successful. Obviously, we're not talking about something on that scale for this. But again, a key component of it is general awareness of this. Have the right people speaking in the schools, have the schools taking this on as part of their civics program. Hopefully getting the community excited about the idea. Again, probably not the same way they were about the Quincentennial program, but you will remember probably better than most people that was off to a very slow start. It took a while for it to sink in, the significance of that celebration. But once the Cayman people, and even those who are not Cayman, caught on to it, it was an incredible year, an absolutely incredible year. And so we are hoping and planning that this, which will be a little bit more than a year, be 14 months, really, because it incorporates two anniversaries, the 60th of the coat of arms next year and the 60th of the Constitution the year to follow. that will also become a national, or those become national events, and something that our people can take pride in celebrating.
There are no further questions. CBO 22. Oh, all those in favor of CBO 22, services provided by the London office, $1,132,736 and $1,000,000 in 2018 and $1,132,735 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, can I have my vote specifically recorded as an abstention on that vote?
Okay, sir. I understand. URC 1, drafting instructions for the development of legislation. $30,352 in 2018 and $30,352 in $30,352 in 2019. Are there any questions? There are no questions. All those in favor of URC 1, drafting instructions for the development of legislation. $30,352 in 2018 and $30,352 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. URC 2, management of KY domain, internet domain, $25,000 in 2018 and $25,000 in 2019. Are there any questions? There are no. Member for East End.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm wondering if I can be told how much revenue are we getting off this KY domain?
Mr. Chairman, just a moment until we. Sure. Mr. Chairman, about $250,000 a year.
How much?
About $250,000 a year. Each domain name is 40 US per annum.
And
We have about 8,000.
and how much are we doing on an annual basis?
It generates about $250,000 revenue per annum.
Okay.
There are no further questions. All those in favor of URC 2, management of the KY internet domain, $25,000 in 2018 and $25,000 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. URC 3, collection and verification of license fees, $100,383 in 2018 and $100,383 in 2019. Are there any questions? Member for East End.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, can we find out if all licensees are complying with their fees and more so on their build out?
Mr. Chairman, I think this is a question that is probably best answered by the technical folk in the person of Mr. Ali.
Mr. Ali, could I ask you to state your name and your position for the record?
Alifa Amoy, Deputy Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director ICT at Offreg. For the most part, Mr. Chairman, the licensees are compliant in terms of paying their fees. We have one or two small operators, radio stations, who are behind in submitting payments or audited financials. But the larger licensees, the telcos, are fully compliant when it comes to license fees. In terms of build out, I would assume that the member is speaking about fiber rollout, which is a license condition for a number of our telco licensees. That is still a work in progress. We've been meeting with roadblocks from a number of quarters, including pole attachments and access to buried ducts. On the pole attachment side, a decision that we made to encourage and open up easier access to poles has been challenged in court. We are now under judicial review on that particular decision, and on the matter of ducts, we are considering enforcement action against the licensee who was not abiding by their license conditions and allowing access to buried ducts for other licensees.
That brings up a nice question about whether government is complying with the duct arrangement.
Mr. Chairman, government is actually one of our licensees. Government does have a small buried duct infrastructure that connects a number of government facilities together. We would prefer that government would not be a licensee. It sort of opens up a number of conflicts potentially. So it would be good for them to sell that infrastructure to. We have people who are interested in buying, but government as a licensee is compliant.
I've been vindicated though that I did not support it, never did, for government be a licensee. But anyway, that's a different matter. Hope we get out of it. My other concern was we were asked to put administrative fees in place for lack of compliance with directives from the ICT. Have they been used? Have they been effective? Are we getting any results? Good results as a result of applying them?
Mr. Chairman, through you, what the member refers to is a change in the law 2 years ago, I think now, that increased the maximum
500,000
penalties that the then authority and now Offreg could apply. The threat of the stick is having an effect. A regulator always wants to have multiple ways to achieve its results, not just carrot and just stick, but any number of ways to get things done. So the daily fines and the one-off fines, while we have not had occasion to actually use them, they still remain what we believe is a strong deterrent and motivating factor for licensees.
Okay. I would like to ask about I think it may be under the other area though, but I'll wait until we get to 5 because it's about the complaints, because that has been a very vexing issue. And we have not had a lot of success with complaints, and that was one of the reasons why we had that put in place. So I'll wait till we go under URC 5.
Member for Bontown West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, sir. I'm not sure if this is the right area, but I just want to put 2 questions out there. One, as it relates to the mobile termination rate between telecoms companies. I know when that first came out, it was roughly, I think, 18.5 cents to terminate between Cayman and Digicel. And that was something that I had an issue with for the simple fact that it was actually cheaper to call, make an overseas call to the US or to the UK than it was to call locally between telecoms company. And the second one was in terms of internet quality, in terms of people getting what they're actually paying for. So I don't know if this is the section, but that is something when we do reach that, Mr. Chairman, I would definitely like those issues responded to, but particularly the mobile termination rate because it does drive up costs between the carriers.
Okay. He has indicated he's able to deal with the
Okay,
questions here,
perfect,
so we'll
thanks.
do it now.
Mr. Chairman, the mobile termination rate, or MTR, globally was an issue when competition first entered markets all around the world in terms of fixed lines calling mobile phones and mobile carriers connecting to each other. It's less of an issue now on the global scale, less an issue here in Cayman. But if there are, because that part of the market is fully competitive, as a regulator, we don't actually regulate those fees. So the market is able to determine what fees it wants to charge in terms of on-net calling versus off-net calling, where the MTR would come into play.
It is the off-net that I'm curious about. What is the rate presently now?
It varies depending on the package that you have. So again, the market is fully competitive, so there are any number of packages out there.
But that's on the mobile side. But on the fixed side, have we liberalized the fixed line yet? Because I think that rate is still quite expensive for a fixed line to call a mobile phone.
I have to be careful what I say. We are in the process of preparing to renew telco licenses in 2018. In the preparation for that, we have to go about a significant market power analysis, which is an economic analysis of whether or not some of our providers are still dominant in the fixed line space, for example. So I can't tell you empirically if that market is competitive as I can with mobile. Until that analysis is done, I can't prejudge the outcome. But I can say that there are still, while we have 4 fixed line providers out there providing fixed line type services, we believe there is one that is still fairly dominant when it comes to all 3 islands and its market share across all 3 islands when it comes to fixed lines.
Okay.
So to the extent that they may remain dominant, we will still have an issue with pricing in that space.
Well, just to put it out there, because I know, I guess just competitive, that no one would be willing to sell a service without actual cost. So I think it's high time now with almost 14 years, 13 years of liberalization in the mobile market, that at least that mobile termination rate moved from 18.5 cents CI when it had just started to at least something far lower now, because at the end of the day, it still affects the off-net call. And I remember that being an issue where we were paying like 1 cent to MCI to terminate calls in the US, and we were paying 22.5 cents to terminate call to the neighbor next door. So I just wanted to make sure, because those are the kind of things that actually drive up the cost of telecoms in Cayman. And I think for mobile and what people are paying for mobile in this country compared to what the actual cost is, and then considering what these guys have invested already in the network, the truth of the fact is that they're laughing all the way to the bank. And I think they've already made their returns on their investment, and it's time now for the Caymanian people start seeing a massive reduction in telephone costs.
To address the question, Mr. Chairman, we can undertake to provide the member with information around MTR.
We can discuss this offline, yeah.
But to your point, if you're a postpaid customer, what you pay for those very same phone calls is very, very different than what a prepaid customer.
And a lot of those prepaid customers, in essence, are actually being ripped off. I mean, a lot of people have prepaid service, and when you look at what the capital investment is compared to what the returns are now, it's really at this point now borderlines and ridiculous now. So I think the consumers have paid for the network. It's time that we start seeing some reduction.
To the second question the member asked, Mr. Chairman, about internet quality. We're going through a number of regulations that we're looking at for consumer protection. In other words, we feel that consumers should get what they pay for. We have a number of metrics that we're considering for that.
Good.
We actually met with the Law Review Commission today because the LRC is also looking at a much broader consumer protection legislation across all sectors, not just the sectors that OFREG regulates. Nonetheless, we still feel that we should pursue our consumer protection efforts in order to. So we have truth in advertising right now that affects or applies to our ICT licensees. What we're looking at is a much broader set of regulations, basically, so that consumers can get what they're paying for. So if you're buying or paying for 10 megabits per second of internet speed, you shouldn't be getting 1 and 2.
Well, no, I agree because I pay for 15 and sometimes I want to get in 2. And so that's not good. Okay, thanks much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, sir.
I'm hoping that this is the area where you bring up about the data charges, data. There's a lot of complaints, a lot of people around the community in terms of the way that the data's charged and the way that people's bills run up when they take their phones overseas. I can tell you that I'm a victim. And $19,000 in data, there has to be a system where if a person's regular phone bill is only $200 a month or $400 a month or whatever, has to be some kind of cutoff system where you don't just continue charging the person. And I can tell you throughout that whole trip, I didn't use my phone. But I guess you got to click something off. But it is quite ridiculous that that persons in this country, and I hear a lot of people complaining if they just go to Miami for a couple of days, yeah. So if we need to really look into this. It's. I mean, right now I'm trying to pay it off. If I didn't pay it off, then they would probably take me to court. This is just another way for us to and I'll use the word kindly, rape Caymanians. There's no way in the world that most people could pay off a $20,000 data bill. Yeah. So, from my understanding is that most of these companies have a flat rate in most countries, so it's not even costing them. So, could we please look into this? I'm scared to take my phone overseas now. But it is a vexing issue that many people in this country are complaining about this data.
Mr. Chairman, OFREG is concerned about roaming rates as well, not just the rate that is charged on a particular carrier in a particular country, but whether or not the terms and conditions were properly communicated to the customer. So I myself subscribed to a plan. I thought certain countries were covered. I get back and realize that the 2 hours I spent in transit at a particular airport on my way from point A to point B was not covered. And of course, the phones that you have these days are very chatty. They really love getting on the web and updating and downloading updates to software, etc. So in a matter of a few hours, your data rates, your data consumption can be very costly. Again, we're concerned about how this is being communicated to consumers and whether it's being done in a fair, open manner that's easily understood and not full of abbreviations and acronyms and gobbledygook. So to the members' query, we're concerned about it and we are looking into it.
Mr. Chair.
Member from East End.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I had a number of things written down here on the same matter, the internet and particularly data roaming, because there's some false advertising. that needs to be taken up, because there's one company here who advertised it at 13 cents per megabyte. And I had a big bill too. My son had one on my phone with 2200, but something needs to happen with this. All they are concerned about is portability, so they can get customers coming over to them. And that is all of them. It's not one, it's not just one alone. All of them are only concerned about portability. Right in Savannah. And I know the director spoke about the challenges with pole sharing that is currently being challenged. It's ridiculous. Right in Savannah, by the school, we still have hard wire. And this cannot be. They don't want to build out fiber optics from Savannah substation east, because they fear their returns are not going to be that much enough to pay it off in short periods of time. They're only concerned about Georgetown, and this is the feeding ground, and they're fighting for Georgetown because of the businesses here. Well, somebody has to pay for somebody. And you got rob Peter, pay Paul. If you want to provide a service for this whole country that you signed up for. It is not a matter of whether or not offering will allow you to do it or will ask you to do it. You signed for it. The licenses, you signed for it. Now it's time to get it going, and whether it's CUC or whomever with pole sharing, they need to start dealing with it too, because they are also an ICT provider through the fiber links that they have. And all they want, there is no service. The TV, you can't, they're stealing that. They're robbing that out of the skies and then reselling it to us. Somebody needs to say it. It is time it stops. You go home tonight and all you see is rain cross. And then you change to another channel and 5 minutes later, no access. Because they closed them down. And in the meantime, you're catching your breath to try and pay for it. Or you got to chop off one hand when you leave your house to carry into them. It is wrong. And it's time we do something about it, because we are no less than anyone else. It's only Georgetown, West Bay Road they're talking about. My people in East End, North Side, Bodden Town, can't even put up a little antenna to say, bang, pick up 27. And don't talk about government. We did. CIG TV. If you not got money, you ain't getting that. I got emotional about this thing because it's wrong. I tried everything when I was there, and we had one day that thank God he gone with that. Is that your last? Is that your final answer?
Are there other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, like the member for East End, I mean, we have tried everything. We complain every year to you and your supervisor organization. 3 years ago, we sat down and said you needed some sticks, right? It's gotten worse, sir. The service I subscribe to Flow, right? And I can tell you that every month I go to pay my bill, I threaten to bring the box in. They don't pay any mind. If you try to call up to report it, you got to give the phone to your wife who speaks Spanish. because you can't understand him, they can't understand you, or is somebody else that's even worse. Why are these people allowed to outsource these kind of customer services and we don't get anything? And I don't know what else. We're giving you the tools. I mean, I agree with you that the government may have not did it the way that we thought it should be done, and it just made it one big fine instead of having it $25,000 if I'm paying for 10 megabytes and I'm only getting 3, and you come out and test it. You call them, you tell them, here's your ticket, pay the $5,000, and if you don't get this fixed by 2 o'clock this evening, you get another $5,000 fine. Because when you start talking about $500,000, all they do is see lawyers, and they just lawyer up, and you're being court, as my good friend behind you would tell you, until Jesus Christ arrived on Riviera Beach. But what are the customers supposed to do? We write legislation, we give these people a license under certain conditions, and they just do what they want to do. And while you said that you believe it's 100% competitive between the carriers, and particularly in telephone. But how is it possible then that both companies advertise the same phone at the same price on the same day? That's not competition, that's collusion. Another way is Russia or Japan. What am I supposed to tell the constituents in my district who are paying hard-earned money for services they're not getting?
Mr. Chairman, first of all, the members have mentioned the obligation that licensees have to roll out. All of the competitive licensees who came into the marketplace after Cable and Wireless basically signed up to a deal. And that deal was you cannot cherry pick in this marketplace. You have to offer your services to all of our citizens. The sister islands are a whole other issue that we do need to deal with. But the fact is that they each provided undertakings that there would be 100% coverage in Grand Cayman by certain dates and certain timeframes. Each of them volunteered rollout schedules that were slightly different, but all of them are now in default. So the regulator is left in a position where we either fine them $25,000 a day until they fix it, which isn't going to solve the problem, or we modify their license conditions and make it such that we roll out our own universal service network in the Eastern Districts, which is what we're considering. All right, so what we're looking at is rolling out a network that they will pay for, probably from somewhere in Countryside, go east, which will be a single network that when it gets to your house, you can then choose which provider you want your service from.
So
what we believe that will accomplish is we get a fiber network that's rolled out across Grand Cayman at a fraction of the price of four of them trying to build their own fiber networks.
But I can't argue with that because I don't understand half what you're talking about. I did chemistry in school, right? But I'm paying for it twice. Because if you're going to do, unless you can find them at $25,000 a day until you get enough to roll out that network, that would be very desirable, then if the government has to find these resources for off-reg or ICTA to roll out this network, my people are paying for it twice.
Yep.
Because we already paid for it, and these people, I think if you cancel one license, the rest would wake up. So my recommendation is that whichever one is the furthest behind, tomorrow morning you write him and tell him your license is no more is canceled immediately, and you put a notice on the radio, Cayman, you don't need to pay whichever one it is, any more fees because they don't have no license.
We can offer a slightly different alternative.
Here's the problem, right? We write legislation to achieve a certain purpose. When the people that we're regulating do not fulfill the law, we negotiate with them rather than enforce the law. CPA does the same thing with all the planning regulations, unless you're a poor Caymanian. Now, if one of my constituents walks into Flow tomorrow morning and their bill is $300 and they say I can only pay $200 because my TV was out half of the week, they go, no, you got to pay the $300.
What
if I was to write down every time my TV freezes up and record it, do I have the authority when I go to pay my bill to tell Flo, listen, I paid for this period of hours coverage. This is what I didn't get. Therefore, I am not paying you for this.
Under the consumer protection regulations, Mr. Chairman, that we're looking at, the consumer will have a lot more power
Yeah, but that's
to
sometimes
claim that
2021.
they didn't get the services that they were paying for. If we go back to how we get the fiber networks rolled out, the House actually passed or allowed us to bring into force a section of the original ICT law, which enables us to create a universal service fund. One of the things we're looking at for that is funding this Eastern District fiber, what we're calling Edify, through a universal service fund. Basically what it means is that competitive providers, instead of paying to build their own networks, will pay into the fund. They won't have a choice. They pay into the fund. We then hire contractors to go out and build this network, one network, and we deliver the services to, because the regulator needs to act when the market fails. The market has clearly failed
Yeah, but
in this regard
but
because
they're not
we,
getting punished for their failure. What they're doing now is they got a free ride. Because you're telling me they can put in the money, right? What happens if they decide halfway to north side, to Frankstown, we're down at the house, they're not putting any more money?
I'm struggling to remember what my CEO and chairman say to me, Mr. Chairman, because the member sounds very much like I do in board meetings. However, we have to abide by the terms and conditions that were set out in the license obligations and in the law. And what it provides us the ability to do is alter the license that each of them have, because each of them are now in default, and change the commitment that they have, which is to help fund a solution, because none of them, my frustration is that after, as the member said, almost a dozen or more years of competitiveness in this marketplace, we cannot get fiber and choice beyond Mahogany Drive and Prospect, which is an absolute shame in a country that prides itself on the many things that we've accomplished. They're doing exactly what they were told they could not do, which is to cherry pick. One of the issues, for example, that we face is that when it came time to provide services along 7 Mile Beach, they did have problems getting into ducts, and that didn't stop them. They dug up that road 3 and 4 times to run their own fibers.
Exactly.
They're not doing that going east. So that just goes to show that where there's the money, there's will, and they'll find the way. So the regulator needs to act to right the wrongs that are continuing to be done.
Mr.
They're
Chairman,
comfortable knowing that you are not going to enforce the law and cancel their license.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if Mr. Ali can tell
I'm going to
us.
allow one other question from the member from East End.
I wonder if Mr. Ali can tell us, and you can take all them votes on the ICT except the petroleum one. I wonder if Mr. Ali can tell us this rollout, build out he wants to do or proposing, thinking about, would they be charging a universal fund proportional to their market share up on the Eastern End?
There are a number of ways of setting up a universal service fund. One can be charged based on your market share. One can be charged based on your revenue. One can be charged based on any number of factors. Before we do it, we actually have to go out to consultation, the way the law is written. So we'll have a number of options that we present through the consultation process, and we'll get a lot of feedback from licensees, I'm sure, on a number of ways to proceed.
Yeah, and most importantly is arbitration, mediation, and enforcement. Them two, make sure they get into it.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, one more question then. Go ahead, member from Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I just want to ask a question, but I have to refer to the Minister for Bontown in respect to what he said before about if there is a law that prevents a company from continuing to charge And I'll give you the story background of why I asked the question. A constituent came
Can you
to see
make
me.
that brief?
I'll try to make it as brief as possible.
Please.
I want to make sure it's clear because this is my first question on this. And Mr. Member from East End used up all the time, but I think I'm deserving of my question.
You can ask the question. It's the preamble. I'm trying to get you to
just so you
shorten
can
up.
understand, a constituent came to me and said that they had direct debit set up for paying her internet bill at Flow. For whatever reason, Flow canceled that direct debit, but didn't turn off her service. She's thinking she's been continuing to pay it until some 9 months later, they turn it off, and she goes in and goes, "Why did you turn off my service?" Because she had a direct debit set up. They said, "Well, the service, your direct debit was canceled 9 months ago." She said, "Well, it's not a fault of mine. I don't understand that, but why?" What they basically expected her to do then was to pay up the full 9 months back pay in order for her service to get back on. And I say that because I think that the minister was correct in saying there has to be a cutoff point where if you continue to just give me a service without any collection, you can't just do that. Say, for instance, if they went on for 5 years and then later on decide to say, "I'm going to charge you 5 years service." There has to be a cutoff point, whether that's 3 months or 6 months, but there's an expectation that you cannot continue to give a service without collection. There's a responsibility on the consumer because they're consuming the product, but there's also a responsibility on the consumer to say, reasonably, we have to stop the service now because it's hard for a person to pay back a bill once it reaches to a certain height. So my question, now that I've spilled that all out, is there any provisions now in the law to stop a provider from doing that? And if not, is the ICTA considering that in their consumer protection proposals coming up?
Mr. Chairman, there's no provision in any of the off-reg laws that I'm aware of that would specifically address a particular issue. I think what we're talking about is a consumer protection measure that would limit the amount of debt that a consumer, a single consumer, could get themselves into over whatever the period of time is. So in other words, if you're an example of a regulation that could be passed around this would say if the customer is paying $100 a month, you don't expect to run their bill up to $1,000 a month, 10 times what they normally pay. There's got to be something wrong going on there. So whether it's fraud or a mistake or an error, so that sort of thing. So those are the kinds of measures that we would expect to enact through regulation on the consumer protection side of the House, if that answers the member's question.
Thank you.
Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Cayman Brac and Little Cayman have many of the same issues as was explained by the two gentlemen from the east, from North Side and East End. The deputy director was kind enough to share a solution with them with the universal line. Can you share with us a solution for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman? Is that going to be one of the same? And I'm sure that you have had many of the same issues brought to your attention.
So we do have a similar thought around a similar solution in the Sister Islands, what some people are calling sci-fi instead of edify. It would physically would be different because of the geographic constraints that we have in the Sister Islands, but I'm happy to discuss with the Deputy Premier some more detail around that before we are able to go to consultation. We would need to put a lot more thought into how we do a version of the Eastern District Fiber in the Sister Islands. It's not a simple process, but it's a challenge that we think we need to address sooner rather than later.
I can get into 16, I get in 6 to 12 years. We've been arguing for the last 6.
We can definitely try.
Mr. Chairman, just ask Mr. Ali if just ask Mr. Ali if,
Oh, I'm sorry. My mic wasn't on, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. The question was, the solution that was proposed, is that something that can happen in the next 6 to 12 months?
The solution itself can't be rolled out in that time frame, but we can flesh it out and maybe get a consultation going so that we can get the ball rolling on the sister island version of the Eastern District's fiber.
well, Mr. Chairman, I want to, in parallel with Cayman Brack, I want to see the Eastern end going too. So they got two to do. In the case of Cayman Brack, it is not, you wouldn't have a problem from here to there, but you would have a problem within the two islands. That's where the problem lies with rollout.
For the sister islands, there's obviously the bottleneck of the submarine cable between Grand Cayman and Cayman Brack.
Right.
Once you get to the sister islands,
Right.
I remember as a child growing up in the Brack, the Vermeer coming to the Brack to dig trenches and ducts, and the steel teeth on that Vermeer, which is a big steel chainsaw, basically breaking off because of the hardness of the rock. So we should not underestimate the difficulty in doing that type of work in the Brack. But then there's also the challenge of trying to get to Little Cayman, which poses its own challenges.
Don't forget that Eastern Rock.
Can we go ahead and take this to a vote then?
I have one final question, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
Is there any regulation on these phone people? Every now and again, I turn on my phone and there's a whole pile of advertisements that they put on. Are they charging customers for those ads and then forcing me to look at it on my phone?
If
How can they do that?
If there's data being delivered to a phone, Mr. Chairman, then it's probably getting to your phone over your data plan if you're not on Wi-Fi. So probably. I would have to.
I mean, they're not only charged, they're charging me for the data time that they send me an ad that I have not requested.
If that ad is sent to you on email or any data plan, then I would think you were being charged for it. Yes.
They're bigger than it was than I thought it was.
Didn't
Chairman, about that.
didn't we discuss one time for opting to use that? They must be required to ask you to, if you want to get advertisements on your phone?
I believe we addressed some issues around SMS, text messaging ads. We didn't come up with a regulation. What the carriers have done is created these lists where you can basically get off of you opt out of receiving these messages.
I paying not no phone for them about no SMS. It's not my job. That's not what I bought my phone for. I don't have to opt out. We discussed this already. I have to opt in. And they need ICTA or FRAG needs to tell them they need to take it off people's phone and give them the option to get it. I don't want to hear that that's like mail in my mailbox.
Let's take the vote.
Mr.
All
Chairman.
those in favor?
I just had one question. I've been waiting a little bit patiently to ask it, and it'll be quick. In terms of service providers having their infrastructure based locally, is that still an issue where some service providers still have the infrastructure overseas? And is that also not an issue where, if it is happening, where government may not be collecting the revenue it should be from the licensing fees because maybe they're not paying for the portion of traffic or data, whatever it is that happens off island? Is that a concern?
Mr. Chairman, there is a concern that we have that critical national infrastructure is not always in country. So it's, and I'm not talking about billing systems, I'm talking about systems that are critical to completing a call or being able to reach 911, that type of thing. We are still concerned about that, and we will address that in the relicensing process that all of our telcos are going to go through in the next year or so, starting in 2018, in terms of that impacting charging and whatnot. They'll go to a least cost location, whether it's for customer service or for hosting data. If it costs them to backhaul the connection to that other country, they're obviously reaping a benefit of operating in that other country, whether it's lower electricity costs or lower labor costs or that sort of thing. So you could argue that it actually helps them be more competitive in this jurisdiction. Our concern is that critical infrastructure is not in jurisdiction.
All those in favor of URC 3, collection and verification of license fees, $100,383 in 2018 and $100,383 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. URC 4, policy advice, $43,757 in 2018 and $43,757 in 2019. Are there any questions? There are no questions. All those in favor of URC 4, policy advice, $43,757 in 2018 and $43,757 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. URC 5, education of local businesses and the general public on ICT issues, $8,215 in 2018 and $8,215 in 2019. Are there any questions? All those in favor of URC 5, education of local businesses and the general public on ICT issues, for $8,215 in 2018 and $8,215 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. URC 6, regional and international representation, $42,602 in 2018 and $42,602 in 2019. Are there any questions? There are no questions. All those are in favor of URC 6, regional and international representation, $42,602 in 2018 and $42,602 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. URC 7, National Cyber Security Initiatives, $75,000 in 2018, $75,000 in 2019. Are there any questions? There are no questions. All those in favor of URC 7, National Cyber Security Initiatives, for $75,000 in 2018 and $75,000 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. URC 8, monitoring and controlling of petroleum products, storage and handling,
Mr. Chair.
$150,000 in 2018 and $150,000 in 2019. Are there any questions?
Yes, Mr.
Member
Chair.
for Northside?
Yeah. I see here general inspections, all permitted premises and vehicles. I'm getting a lot of complaints that the government is introducing a new inspection fee for petroleum installations, both residential and commercial, that is going to be $100 per year. Can anybody answer whether that is in fact or not?
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if the exact figure is $100 per inspection, but the fuels section of OFREG is looking at safety inspections and permit inspections associated with both commercial and residential, whether it's fuel installations for generators or large LPG propane type installations.
But I'm getting complaints from constituents that they are now enforcing that. They are requiring inspection for propane installations in residential homes, and it's $100 fee per year because it has to be inspected every year. But most of these things, if it's a tank, don't the tank have like a 3, 4, 5 year life? Because this is going to add considerable to people residential costs. That's my understanding. Somebody was promised to. If you're a poor person, yeah. Yeah. There are people in Cayman who can't afford $9 a month.
Member,
Mr.
the member for Cayman Brack West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarity, I thought as a government, we had taken a position of not introducing any new fees. So I'm at a loss
was
as
the next
to where
question.
these fees come in and the authority for it.
But it's not a new service. These things are been around, and people have been planning, and other ones have been inspecting. This is a new fee they're introducing for this.
Mr. Chairman, it is a new service. It's a new inspection service. Now, we can decide whether or not we think that it is safe for us to continue as we have, without these things being inspected. But if the service is provided, the government has to pay for it. And then the money has to come from somewhere.
Chairman.
It's not a new fee in the sense, it's a
Lester,
new
you can't allow-
service.
You can't claim that you're not introducing no new fees then.
Mr. Chairman, and I am sure
But it's
Mr.
not a new
Ali
service. It was inspected before. No, it was done before.
can help me here. But when this was being set up, and I don't remember under the fuels, when the ICTs were set up, and CUC license, we employed a regulatory fee, which was based on the gross revenue. I think it's like 1%, something, 0.5% or something of that nature. Was that done for the fuel as well?
I don't believe it was, Mr. Chairman.
Anyway, I told Kurt do that, Anyway, it's not too late to do it though, because I see where the Premier says that you all, and I quote him, one of the duties of us is consumer protection, including fair pricing in the fuel sector. And so as one of the main objectives, Utility Regulatory and Competition Office, OFREG, will be to quickly complete the work needed to ensure fair pricing and competitiveness at the gas station. Now, are we going to apply that formula straight across the board to get fair pricing? The one we use at CUC, and we're now using for the water. What's the name of it? Remind me the formula to calculate pricing on RCAM. The RCAM. I so did that. The RCAM in this fair pricing mechanism, I trust, because I fought for that during the last administration, to apply that straight across the board on all utilities. We just need change, as you well know, we just need to change some of the parameters, really, the X factors and stuff needs to be changed. But I think it's a fair way of fair competition and fair pricing too.
Mr. Chair, the member is right. The RCAM and other models are typically used for water, for electricity, for telecoms. Fuel is slightly different in the sense that the cost of the fuel is dictated more by the market, the wholesale fuel market, and less by the capital costs employed to deliver the service to the customer's house or to the customer's premises. So the market prices tend to have more of an impact on what you pay at the pump or what you pay for a cylinder of propane than the capital costs that were set up. So the RCAM is less of an effective tool for regulating that industry than it is for the other parts of OFREG that we have, if that's helpful.
I agree with him, Mr. Mr. Chairman, that is if we don't have access to the actual value of the initial value of that of cost value. When we do, which is through the world oil price, which is delayed by 2 months, when we have a fixed price on that, that becomes that factor that we use as we use in the application of your infrastructure for water and electricity and the likes. And that may be a little technical for some of my colleagues, but it is a fact that, but we are not doing that. We are allowing them to come up with one of their companies buying it somewhere in the East Caribbean, selling it to somebody, another one Bahamas, and then selling it back to us. And you have all these prices tagged on. But if we use the world oil price, which fluctuates whenever it is, but that's your set price, and then you apply an X factor on that, then that can work. But whatever.
We need a question. Is there a question, sir?
I'm asking him if that is not a fact, that if that's a fixed price.
Yes. Oh. Can you answer?
The member is correct in that we're doing a market assessment on the fuels markets in Q1 2018, and will apply the appropriate mechanisms for regulation.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm also getting a lot of complaints about the quality of the inspections on these installations. People were allowed to install them with no straps, and they float up in this rain. And if you look at the government commitment, they only expect to get it right. Inspections to be carried out by qualified, competent, and experienced inspectors 75% of the time. So if the Premier is worried about blowing up, 25% of the time they're going to be wrong. But proper inspections, what's happening now is people are paying and they're not getting proper inspections.
Could I ask the member to send us some information, some details on those complaints so we can investigate?
Mr. Chair.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
Thanks.
just one question. With regards to the, I don't know if this is the right vote for it. Just wanted to make sure. With regards to the incident that we had in South Sound quite a while back, I understand that there was a report that was being done in terms of the possible cause. Is that something that is near completion or has already been completed?
Mr. Chairman, the investigation is ongoing. There has been a delay in getting access to the tank because of operational and safety issues at the facility. I understand that work is being done to clear that tank and provide our team with the access to the inside of the tank that we need to conduct the inspection. And the investigation is ongoing, basically.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chair, thank you. My question is about this fee. I didn't know about it, and yes, it's a new fee, the $100 inspection fee. Yes, I agree with safety, but I think we'll probably get some of the same result we got with the garbage fees, where no one actually paid it. I'm not sure how many homes we have in Cayman, whether it's 40,000 homes or whatever. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers. If we collecting $45 million or whatever, but what constituted the amount that's being charged, and can we reconsider reviewing the fee, the inspection fee, the cost?
Yeah, you have to do it. I think even the 100-pound tank, you're not going to have to get the same $100 inspection. It's not graduated or anything. The big commercial ones with the, I don't know what it is, 1,000-pound tank, it's the same 100 feet as, I don't know, it might even include your barbecue grill outside. That's what I'm saying.
All I can do, Mr. Chairman, is undertake to look at the actual costs of these inspections and report back to the member as to the several members who have asked about it.
Mr. Chairman, through part of the problem with people is there's been no publicity, there's been no explanation of why this is necessary. And people just see it as another, you know.
All those in favor of URC 8, monitoring, controlling of petroleum products, storage and handling, for $150,000 in 2018 and $150,000 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. Other executive expenses, OE5, constituency allowance, $1,086,000 in 2018 and $1,086,000 in 2019. Are there any questions? There are no questions. All those in favor of OE5, constituency allowance, $1,086,000 in 2018 and $1,086,000 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. OE111, disability policy, $125,000 in 2018 and $125,000 in 2019. Are there any questions? There are. Member from East End.
I just need to ask the Premier if we're going to take out of the traffic law the provisions for handicap parking and the likes and put it in that disability law.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know that has been a consideration, but it's something we're prepared to consider. Yes, I don't know why it would be better in one law than the other, but we can discuss those things.
I'm just thinking for completeness. That's fine.
There are no further questions. OE11. All those in favor of OE112, older persons policy. Excuse me. I'm doing OE111. All those in favor of OE111, disability policy, for $125,000 in 2018 and $125,000 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. OE112, older persons policy, $125,000 in 2018 and $125,000 in 2019. Are there any questions? There are no questions. All those in favor of OE112, older persons policy, for $125,000 in 2018 and $125,000 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. OE113, administrative and advisory support to members of the Legislative Assembly, $1,896,173 in 2018 and $1,896,173 in 2019. Are there any questions? There are no questions. All those in favor of OE113, administrative and advisory support to members of the Legislative Assembly, for $1,896,173 in 2018 and $1,896,173 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. The ayes have it. Equity investments, EI 36, Cabinet Office, for $85,000 in 2018 and $85,000 in 2019. Are there any questions? There are no questions. All those in favor of EI 36, Cabinet Office, $85,000 in 2018 and $85,000 in 2019, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against? No. The ayes have it. Ladies and gentlemen, members, that concludes the appropriations to the Premier, and that concludes this Finance Committee
Mr. Chair.
meeting for today.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wish to thank my team for staying so late and for providing assistance to the committee. I am a little disappointed. I thought since we were on a roll that we could have perhaps got through the district administration, tourism, and transport quickly before we went to bed. But
I'm happy to go on if you want.
Mr. Chair.
Pardon? Tomorrow morning, we are going to commence with the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism, and Transport. That would be the first thing. And we'll have a wider schedule ready for us tomorrow morning as well. Okay?
Mr. Chair, I just want to extend my thanks to the civil servants who stayed so late to assist us with this information. It's a pleasure working with them and the answers they gave.
Okay. Thank you. Members, that concludes the meeting. We'll commence again at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.